Hi, welcome to Sun Sport, where we're here to discuss the big fight. It's Anthony Joshua versus Francis Ngannou. It's on March the 8th. It's in Riyadh in Saudi Arabia. And we've got our fighting experts with us. They are Chisanga Malata and Wally Downs. Now then, lads, this is not a fight that a few months ago we'd be expecting to be talking about. I mean, someone like Francis Ngannou was well known in the mixed martial arts world, but not at all as boxing. Nobody saw him as a boxer. Then he knocks down Tyson Fury, and suddenly everyone goes, whoa, amazing. Maybe he is a boxer. And then, of course, Anthony Joshua beats Otto Wallen, shows that he's on a bit of a comeback, looking good again. And then his promoter, Eddie Hearn, decides, oh, I tell you what, I think we should have Joshua versus Ngannou, having totally dismissed Ngannou as a fighter, having said he's absolutely useless and get beaten in one round by the Southern Area champion. And now we have a fight where everybody's going, oh, this is a proper fight. So is it a risk for Joshua?
Well, rest assured, Eddie Hearn didn't make any decision about what he's doing. This is Turki al-Sheikh, the Saudi Arabian money man now. His Excellency. Thank you to His Excellency for making all these fights. He's the one that's decided this. He's the one that really likes Francis Ngannou and his incredible story. He's the one who probably likes the UFC. So.
Hearn's talking it up as a fight now, though, isn't he?
Now he is. Now it's huge, of course. Yes. Yeah, of course. He was going to lose in a round to Johnny Fisher for the Southern Area title, but anyway, we're not allowed to mention that. I always hear this word jeopardy thrown around now. There's such jeopardy in this fight. Every time anyone has a fight out in the cobbles that there's jeopardy, you're going to get punched in the face. But this one is, in terms of keep warm fights that Joshua could have taken while Fury and Usyk decide the undisputed over 2 fights, this would be the easiest one technically, and I know Chisanga will hate that because of his respect for UFC and MMA, but the alternative would be someone like a Filip Hrgovic or someone like a Zhilei Zhang or even a Joseph Parker rematch. On paper, he should come through Ngannou with a great stoppage, especially after the Wallen performance.
No disrespect to Ngannou, obviously, which is what the boxing writers always say about the UFC fighters. No disrespect to them, but it's not the same. They can't handle this, and they've proved they can handle it, and he's proved he can handle it.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of the boxing writers forgot that boxing was Francis Ngannou's first martial arts discipline. That's what he trained in. That's what he moved to Europe to become. And when he ended up in the MMA factory in Paris with his former coach, Fernando Lopez, he was trying to become a boxer, but then Fernando saw the potential in him becoming an MMA super athlete, and he transitioned him into that. But even I was blown away by the way that Francis was feinting his way in, jabbing and moving against Tyson Fury. I thought if he was going to win, it would be from one of the Hail Mary haymakers that he throws, but he actually showed that he can box and he can counterpunch, and obviously we now have the infamous image of Tyson Fury on the canvas looking and thinking, what the hell, and Francis Ngannou dancing over him, essentially.
Is it a good thing for MMA and UFC that he's boxing, or does it make that sport look like, I don't know, second division, that really to be properly recognised, you've got to be a boxer?
I don't think it's good for the sport in the sense of it shows how much money can be made elsewhere. Like Ngannou's making back-to-back lifetime, or banking back-to-back lifetime purses that he would have had to for maybe 10, 15 years or maybe even 20 years to get in mixed martial arts, and I'm sure you've seen the numbers before.
Listen, it's another bloody nose for the UFC, because although they are without doubt the premier mixed martial arts promotion, the minute anyone gets good, the first thing they want to do is go and box. From Conor McGregor, Jorge Masvidal, Nate Diaz, these guys know that they're completely controlled by the UFC. I think the UFC, with all the money they make, their revenue, most American sports distribute 35% of that to their athletes. Is it 17? 17%. Just disgraceful. Yeah. So every guy who strikes well in the UFC wants to become a boxer, because you can control your own destiny. You can go and get your own purses. So. It does make the UFC look less powerful, especially when there's this idea that UFC is killing boxing. The only time boxing kills itself a lot of the time. I don't think there's a huge crossover with really fan base too much, personally. No. I don't know.
But you like both sports, don't you, Chisanga?
Yeah, I love both sports, but I say the pool of diehard boxing and UFC fans is very, very small.
It's similar to the Misfit stuff, but it's a lazy. No, I forgot. I don't mean it. But I mean that the broadcasters would love you to believe that boxing fans, UFC fans, and Misfits fans are all the same sort of gang. Really, it's the absolute opposite. Most boxing fans, and I think a lot of them are wrong, really don't like MMA, and they certainly don't like that. They abhor Misfits more than anything else. So.
So we're not going to be seeing KSI fight the winner of Joshua versus Ngannou.
Listen, if His Excellency decides that he wants it to, you will be seeing it.
Now, we saw
You'll be there front and centre, mate.
Yeah, I'll be there.
We were almost writing Joshua off as a boxer before this fight, because if he'd lost to Wallin, that would have probably been it. And yet he produced a good performance. He's got a new trainer who it seems that is Fury's ex-trainer, who is bringing him back. And now we're taking him seriously again as a proper world title contender.
Yeah, when the Ben Davison link-up happened, I think people were a little bit concerned, because as respected as Ben is, he was the man who basically brought Fury back from the brink. Yeah. He had a good relationship with Josh Taylor, but that had ended. Great relationship with Billy Saunders, that had ended. Barring their locality, AJ's Watford and his gym is based now in Harlow, it didn't make too much sense to a lot of us.
Or to you.
Yeah, really, especially where he just committed to working with Derek James in Texas. He just had 2 wins with James. He just said how he should have moved to America years ago, and suddenly he's moved half hour down the road instead. So it didn't look right, but I did think going into the Wallin fight, without getting too technical, if AJ had walked out and been bouncing on his toes with his lead left hand up here, I would have nudged someone and gone, oh no. He walked out and he was menacing from the off. He was everything that we had wanted him to be for the Usyk fights, when we wanted him to be aggressive, and he tried to outbox, the guy you can't
left
outbox.
hand again. I wasn't too.
Just goes up.
I've got to say, with Ngannou, do you worry for him at all facing Joshua? I mean, we all talk about Joshua, and the danger for him, but for Ngannou himself, worry to get well beaten, would that sort of be the end of the road when we're talking about boxing?
I think it would be the end of the road, but I mean, what a short-lived career. I mean, fighting arguably the 2 best heavyweights of his generation within, the space of 6 months, 5-6 months. I mean, most fighters would die to have a career like that. So, and not to mention the payday that he's going to be handsomely rewarded with. I think it was 20 million or something, we reported figures for the last one.
We spoke
Did
to
you report those figures?
Yeah, but I think they didn't make the paper. We spoke to him the other day and we said, how come you weren't in the ring furious that you didn't get the decision over Tyson? He said, how can I be angry? I come from I come from Africa, 1.6 billion people, most of them youths who've never got a dream. He said that when you go through what he went through, at the age of 26, he went from Cameroon into Nigeria, into Niger, managed to get to Morocco, to Spain, the Sahara, the Mediterranean. 7 times he tried to get over the Mediterranean Sea. He did so many efforts, in the end, the smugglers made him the captain of the boat. And he couldn't swim. Yeah. So his story, the idea that getting beat up by AJ would harm it, the story cannot be any better. And I think the reason people love boxing is that really poor people can come to something great, and you look back at your Jack Johnsons and Sonny Listons and Frasers who came, from slavery, let alone anything else, and even a guy like Gervonta Davis who grew up in care homes and he was too naughty to be an extra on the wire. Those stories are running out in the West because people aren't, thankfully we don't face that sort of stuff. His story is that incredible.
It was an incredible story. Where does he rank when people are talking about him, MMA, UFC world? We're so used to hearing non-stop Conor McGregor. Where does he figure for people in that world?
At this moment in time, because he hasn't fought in the UFC, I think, since January 2021, he is kind of at the back of people's minds. But obviously when he's fighting, he's fighting with the Professional Fighters League. I don't know if you've heard of the PFL. They've actually also had an injection of cash from Saudi, 100 million. That's where he's supposed to be having his next fight, which was meant to be early this year, but then obviously this opportunity came up because of Deontay Wilder blowing the back-to-back AJ fights.
Does he need to fight John Jones to be considered the best big man of this era?
Yes, he does. John Jones is without a doubt the greatest mixed martial artist of all time, and that fight could still happen because the UFC and the PFL are both under the ESPN banner. So if ESPN chiefs came to the UFC and PFL and said, make this money, or if His Excellency came and said, look, we want this fight, they can make it happen.
That's the case, isn't it? Wherever the money's thrown at, people now make the fight.
Yeah. It's amazing how quickly the Day of Reckoning card came to fruition. Was it a week?
These things are happening in sort of 5 and 6 weeks that these are happening now.
in a week or so.
And you think like AJ's entire career since 2012 has been called the road to undisputed, and everything was all about getting all the belts. This is called knockout chaos, and was agreed to. He reckons sort of in about 2-3 days, and is happening on sort of 8 weeks. No, it is incredible, and yes, I understand why people think it's sort of really disrupting boxing in a negative sense, in that it's just the big names and it's just the people that certain people like. But we've sat around and dreamed about most of these fights for 10 years, some of them. AJ Wilder should have been made so many times. That should have been when they had all the belts to be, and it didn't happen because of money and rival broadcasters. The Saudi Arabian guy, Turki Al Sheikh, has come in and just made it. So, boxing fans, we are living in a lucky period at the moment, because these fights are going to get made, because there's no excuse for them not to, really, because all of these boys are prize fighters doing it for money.
But are they really lucky? Because most of them won't be able to go. They're priced out of it, right? The hardcore boxing working class fans.
Again, absolutely, mate. Yeah, that is sad and a shame. But the fights will happen. We sit around and talk about still, Lewis Bowe never happening, and who would have won. There is, or Pacquiao Mayweather not happening earlier. As long as the fights happen, the history books will have the winners and losers in, and it is a shame that people can't go. And but again, lots of fights happen in Vegas, and a lot of Brits never went there.
Okay then, prediction time. Wally, you've got to back your man Joshua, haven't you?
AJ, 4 rounds, no problem.
Wow, that's...
Sanga, you don't think he's going to be beaten up that easily? Then?
No, I don't think so. He just went 10 rounds, with the consensus greatest heavyweight of his era. So, right, now, I ultimately, I think AJ is going to be a bridge too far for Ngannou. AJ is similarly as explosive, just as big, and more importantly, the blueprint is out there. Tyson Fury fought him, and he went into the unknown, the Ngannou unknown as a boxer. But I think ultimately, as I said there, AJ too far of a bridge to cross, and Ngannou's going to lose on points.